We're live. We're live. Welcome to another episode of the New York Double Play Podcast, a James Nolan podcast. All right, let's get right into it. See the headline of the show: Pete Alonso carries the New York Mets yet again with another clutch home run. I mean, in 2024, every Met fan, every baseball fan always said it. Pete Alonso, there was nothing wrong with his overall numbers. A 34 home run season. When you hit 240, it's not necessarily great, but when you hit 34 home runs and you have over a 780 OPS and you drive in 88 runs, it's a subpar year for Pete Alonso, but it's a pretty good year for anybody else. But the reason it was such a subpar, such a down year is what we labeled it as for Pete Alonso was because he didn't come up in the clutch spots and produce. But now, in the past 3 games, I mean, in this Miami series, Pete Alonso went absolutely off. He went 5 for 12. He had 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 2 very clutch home runs. The grand slam came in a clutch spot when we only had a 2-1 lead. We weren't hitting with runners in scoring position. I mean, Pete Alonso was basically the only guy who hit with runners in scoring position today. He comes in, drives in the first 4 runs for the Mets. Obviously that home run was the biggest of them all in the top of the 8th inning. Runners on first and third. 2 outs in a big spot. Pete Alonso comes up in a 3-run ball game with 2 runners on base and hits that 3-run shot to tie it up. So without Pete Alonso this series, the Mets, you can make the case in the first game of this Miami series that they come away with a victory, but Pete Alonso really got the rally going. And then obviously today we don't win that game without Pete Alonso driving in the first 4 runs. And then on the defensive side of the ball too, I mean, the dive play, the 3 unassisted play that he had, everything that Pete Alonso did this series just made every Met fan smile. And we're going to get into the Yankees later and their 16 strikeouts, by the way, too. I do want to touch on that. But man, wow, Pete Alonso, good for him, man. There's nobody who needed a hot start more than Pete Alonso. A lot of people would say Juan Soto coming off that, $765 million deal that he signed with the New York Mets. Maybe he needs a hot start. You could say Lindor, he needs a hot start. But really, in my opinion, it was Pete Alonso who needed the hot start for the New York Mets because Juan Soto could have came out and Juan Soto could be hitless right now. And I wouldn't care because I know at the end of the year, Juan Soto will have a 900 plus OPS with a 400 plus on base percentage with probably 33 plus home runs. Juan Soto is going to be Juan Soto. Francisco Lindor is going to be Francisco Lindor. But Pete Alonso needed this hot start. Coming off the offseason that he had where he didn't sign basically until 2 weeks before spring training started. Good for Pete. You got to be happy for him. If your favorite player is Lindor or Soto or Vientos, and we're going to touch on Vientos too because Vientos is really struggling, only 2 hits in the first 6 games. His body language is terrible, not running out ground balls. But Alonso, you really cannot knock him for anything. And if we get the 2022 version of Pete Alonso, if we get the 2019 or the 2021 even the 2023 version where he just hit 46 home runs and hit 216, you'll take that Pete Alonso, especially in this lineup. So, if we get that type of player out of Pete Alonso this year with Juan Soto, his bat, with Francisco Lindor's MVP caliber bat, if Mark Vientos starts to heat up, Brandon Nimmo, who looks great to start the year offensively as well, this lineup is going to be way better than we expected. And that's just from Pete Alonso having a better year than 2024. And so far, so good for Pete. All right, let's talk about Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos, what up, Vinny? Mark Vientos has been having a terrible start to the year. The sophomore slump, some are calling it, even though he wasn't a rookie last year, but, still his first full real shot that he got last year, hit 27 home runs in 111 games, had a breakout postseason, really put himself on the map, not just in New York, but in the MLB. But Vientos is still not that guy. Like, as great of a year as he did have last year, it was 1 year. He's still not that guy. If it's Juan Soto, if it's Giancarlo Stanton, if it's Aaron Judge, if it's Pete Alonso, even Lindor with a bad back, if it's one of those guys hitting a ground ball and not running the ball out, it's not that big of a deal because we know we want those guys to stay healthy, or they've proven enough in this league where they can get away with stuff like that. Mark Vientos is not at that point of his career. If he came out of the gates firing, I'm sure nobody would be talking about this right now, but it is a big topic of discussion because Mark Vientos has looked like shit right now. Mark Vientos has looked like shit. There's no other better way to put it. I mean, the throw today to home plate, I mean, you can make a case that you want him to turn two, in a crucial spot, runners on first and third with one out with Clay Holmes. And Clay Holmes, we're going to touch on him, had a hell of a day, in my opinion, on the mound. But he did Clay Holmes no favors, runners on first and third, one out. We get the ground ball to the third base for Mark Vientos, routine double play. Even you could say the runner is pretty fast. I think it was Xavier. Why isn't that ringing a bell right now? But anyways, he was pretty fast, but still, he made a terrible throw. And you can even say that you wanted him to go home because his momentum was going towards home plate. You could prevent that run, but if you turn two, you're just out of the inning, so that run's prevented anyway. So I was kind of confused there. But even if you do let up a run and you get one out, it's a 2-1 ball game with two outs and just a runner on first. I'd rather be in that spot than what he did do, which was airmail Hayden Senger. We had no shot. He had no shot at catching that ball. Mark Vientos made a terrible throw. Terrible throw. So multiple errors to start the year. Bad spots, bad at-bats with runners in scoring position, bad at-bats with runners on. Like I said, only 2 hits in his first 6 games. And the body language, I mean, even in the 9th inning, Mark Vientos made a dive and play, which kind of scared me because in baseball, you always want that guy who's charging to take that ball. So there was a ball hit to Vientos in between Vientos and Francisco Lindor where it looked like Lindor was going to make a throw on the run and make a clean routine play. A clean routine play, I should say, for Lindor, because it's probably a hard play for shortstops, but for Lindor, it would have been a routine play. Mark Vientos instead makes a dive and play. Great dive and play, don't get me wrong. But the ball, it took all his momentum away. He had no shot at getting the runner out at first. So just another defensive what the hell moment out of Mark Vientos. And you could just tell by his body language, there's a difference from being pissed and from being just completely out of it. And Vientos, and I don't like saying that players are out of it because I'm not on the field, right? I'm not an MLB player. I wasn't even a minor league player or a college ball player. So I don't really like saying that players are out of it, but you could tell just from being a fan, just from being an independent baseball observer, even if you're not a Met fan, you could tell Mark Vientos is not happy right now. You could tell that he's completely out of it right now. So I think Vientos might need a day off. And I think it would suck to have him sit out the home opener. So I wouldn't have him sit out the home opener. But at the same time, why not think about it? Because we have this Beatty Acuna thing going on right now where we want to find out, is it going to be Beatty or Acuna that stays on the opening day, stays on the 26-man roster once Jeff McNeil comes back, which is only a few weeks away. But Vientos is struggling and needs a day. So I think it could benefit him, and I think it could benefit Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns to kind of see what they can get out of Beatty and or Acuna. So why not, give him a day off? I know it's going to be tough to make Mark Vientos a guy who you expected to be a prime part of this lineup. I mean, the reason we were talking about why Juan Soto joining this lineup would completely change the landscape of it was not just because of Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso, but it was also because of Mark Vientos, the guy who did hit 27 home runs in 111 games last year, the guy who did break out in the postseason and arguably had the second best postseason right after Giancarlo Stanton. So for Vientos, I think he needs a day. I don't think this season is going to be a slump. It's a long season. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. We still have a ton of baseball games left. We still have how many? 156 games left. So I don't want to say Vientos, I'm punting the season away on him just because he's due for a regression. But he needs a day. His body language is terrible. His at-bats have been terrible. Give the kid a day off. Even if it's not the home opener, give him the off day on Saturday. He needs an off day in this upcoming series against the Toronto Blue Jays. All right. And that leads me to my next discussion. Brett Baty and Luisangel Acuna. Brett Baty, I mean, it's hard to defend him. It really is. Going into this year, after a terrific spring training performance, like we really bought in. So this is the year Baty finally proves himself as an MLB player, not an impact bat. I'm not asking Baty to be what Mark Vientos was last year. I'm not asking him to be an all-star caliber player, but can he be a starting second baseman? Can he be a starting player in a lineup? And I think that's asking too much. I think at this point, Brett Baty might need to change the scenery. And I know it's only 6 games in, right? 6 games into the season to say a guy shouldn't be on this roster is kind of insane to say. But at the same time, we've seen it. We've seen Brett Baty tear it up in spring training in 24 and in 2023. And he comes out of the gates in the regular season and he does dick. Like straight up, and I hate cursing, but Brett Baty has done dick. He has done absolutely nothing. In 2024, what did he do? He had 229 with a 633 OPS after a terrific spring training performance in 2024. And then in 2023, another terrific spring training performance, and he hit 212 that year, 212 with a 275 on base percentage in 108 games. So Brett Baty has played 173 major league games throughout the last 4 years, and he has a 213 batting average and a 602 OPS. At some point, I think we just need to realize Brett Baty is never going to be that guy for the New York Mets. He's not. He's a great AAA player, an elite AAA player, but for the New York Mets, he is not going to be a good player. And I'm okay with saying that because we have Luisangel Acuna, we have Jeff McNeil Lumen. Like, I'm done. I'm done with Brett Baty. If he goes, even if he has a day in this upcoming series, let's say he goes 3 for 4. Okay. Can you do it again? Probably not. Probably not. And then Brett Baty also got his ass saved in the 8th inning, and the bottom of the 8th inning, after Pete Alonso hits that game tying home run with a runner on third. He makes a terrible throw, an absolutely terrible throw to the right side of Louis Torrens, trying to throw the runner out at home plate. He throws it on the glove side of Louis Torrens. Easy bang bang play at home plate. Torrens would have gotten the out, no doubt about it. We still got the out because Louis Torrens made a hell of a tag, but he had to backhand the catch, go all the way to his left, and tag the runner out. And he saved Brett Baty. So thank God that Luisangel Acuna came in for him defensively the very next inning. Because one, it just made sense because Baty made it last out in that 9th inning. So you kind of want Acuna to be that runner on second base in the extra innings. But Baty, man, I mean, it's really hard to defend him because his defense, like if he came out there and played great defense to start the year at second base, at least that would have helped. But his defense hasn't been, eye-popping by any stretch. Luisangel Acuna is the clear better defensive second baseman. And offensively, Brett Baty just looks overmatched. And even when Luisangel Acuna, he's not necessarily scorching hot right now, but he's having great at-bats. He's getting on base. He's a threat when he gets on the base paths. He's a guy who had a 13-pitch at-bat just last week in Houston. And he worked a great walk. Almost got a rally started. So Acuna, is he having the best performance to start the year? No, but he doesn't look overmatched. Baty looks completely overmatched. And like I said, the defense is doing Baty no favors whatsoever. So when McNeil comes back, even if Acuna and Baty are both underperforming offensively, I don't see how you can make a case for Baty to be that guy you want on the roster. And I could see you make the case you want Acuna to get reps in AAA, but at this point, we're trying to contend for a championship. The Mets want to win a World Series in 2025, right? So wouldn't it make sense to have the best player on the roster? We traded for Acuna in 2022. In 2022. So that's 2022 we traded for him. Or 2023, I should say. My bad. At this point, Acuna needs to stay on the roster. He does. He was on the playoff roster for a reason because of his versatility. One, he's able to back up Lindor at short. His defense at second base is undoubtedly elite. He could play third. He could probably play center, even though I don't think the Mets are going to ask him to do that much. But I'd rather have Acuna's versatility, probably with either the same numbers offensively or better numbers offensively than Brett Baty, and his speed on the base paths. I'd rather have that for the 2025 Mets than take a shot on Brett Baty, because Brett Baty has gotten opportunity after opportunity after opportunity since 2022, and he hasn't proved anything. So I don't see how anybody could make a case for Baty to stay on the roster unless he goes absolutely off in these next 2 weeks. All right. Now let's touch on Francisco Lindor. Having a bit of a slow start. He's a slow starter. We know that. Through May last year, he was hitting below 200. Then after May 13th, hits above 300, has over a 900 OPS, finishes second in MVP voting, only behind Shohei Ohtani. But right now to start the year, Lindor's numbers are terrible. He's got a 136 on base percentage, a 100 batting average, and a 100 slug percentage. He did go 1 for 5 today. He had a clutch base knock that, he scored after that base knock on the Pete Alonso home run. Oh, no, base knock, scores on the Pete Alonso home run, set him up to tie that game. So that was clutch. But outside of that, Francisco Lindor hasn't really done much. The errors yesterday, I really don't care that Francisco Lindor made 2 errors. I mean, he made 2 errors now in his last 162 games. Francisco Lindor is not a guy who's going to make a ton of errors. When he makes errors, it's what the hell? He made an error? You're not like, oh, I'm worried. Mark Vientos, Brett Baty, I'm worried. Francisco Lindor, I'm not worried. But offensively, I'm starting to get a little worried. I need to see Francisco Lindor have a good series against the Toronto Blue Jays during this homestand. I need to see it. Because if we don't, then I'm going to hit the panic button on a Francisco Lindor slow start again. It happened in 2021, happened in 2022, 2023, 2024. And if it happens again in 2025, it's going to suck. Because if we can win a few extra games from Francisco Lindor being Francisco Lindor, that would be huge. We're going to be in a tight race for this NL East. The Philadelphia Phillies look good. The Braves, I know they're 0-6, probably going to be 0-7. Shohei Ohtani just hit a home run against the Braves to put them up late in the 9th inning. But even with the Braves' slow start, you still got to believe that the Braves are going to be in there. They're going to be in the race come the end of the year. And we saw in 2022, when the Mets won 101 games, they still finished second in the division. So if they won one extra game in March or April, guess what? The Mets win the division. They get a postseason bye. They ended up tying the NL East. Well, not tying. They ended up losing the NL East because the Atlanta Braves had the head-to-head matchup. And then we play the wild card round against a red-hot San Diego Padres team, and we lose. And then just last year in 2024, if we have one extra loss in March or April, what happens? We don't even make the playoffs. So I know some people will say, well, Lindor starting off the year slow, it doesn't really mean much because the games don't really mean as much in the beginning of the year. But they do. They do. Every single game counts towards the regular season record. So a loss in March or April could come down to bite the Mets late in the season, especially when we want to win this NL East division. This NL East division that is stacked. So I need Lindor to do something in this upcoming series against Toronto. We need to see him do something because I'm already hitting the panic button on a Lindor slow start. I hate to do it. 6 games in. But what does the track record say for Lindor? It says that he has slow start after slow start after slow start. So, yeah, I'm hitting the panic button on Lindor. I don't want to. I hate doing it, but I'm doing it. I'm hitting the panic button on Lindor. I know at the end of the year, his numbers will look great. But like I said, every single game counts. Games in March, games in April, they count. And especially in the division we're in, especially with the National League being absolutely loaded. The Padres, they're undefeated. They're probably going to be fighting for a wild card spot. You got to think that the Cubs want to be fighting for a wild card spot. Phillies and Braves, if they don't win the NL East, we're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. The Diamondbacks, they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. The National League is loaded. Not even division. The National League wild card race is going to be tight. So we need Lindor. We need Lindor because he's one of the reasons you want to call him the second best hitter in this lineup. We need that second best hitter in the lineup to do something. Juan Soto has reached base every single game so far. And right now, he has a on-base percentage of 407, slug percentage of 429, only hitting 238 because he went 1 for 5 today and 0 for 3 yesterday. But, I mean, every single game, this guy has reached base. I don't see how you could complain about Juan Soto. I mean, he's doing his job. He's doing his job. And, you know, if Pete Alonso is hitting right behind him and he's working walks and Pete Alonso's hitting behind him, like I said, that'll be huge. That'll be huge. He's doing his job. Last year it was, oh, you want to walk Soto? Go ahead, walk Soto. Aaron Judge is up. If we can have that with Pete Alonso, I'm not saying Pete Alonso needs to hit 50-plus homers like Aaron Judge. I'm not saying Pete Alonso needs to hit 300-plus like Aaron Judge. But if he's doing what he's doing right now, I mean, that'll be a huge plus for the Mets this year. And Juan Soto's eventually going to bring that batting average up. You know, it's going to be fun to see what he does in Citi Field because Juan Soto's numbers in Citi Field throughout his career are just insane. I mean, let's take a look at Juan Soto's numbers actually in Citi Field. Juan Soto career stats at Citi Field. Because he's been a Met killer throughout his career. So at Citi Field. Is he going to give me the exact stats? Oh, well, I guess we'll go versus the Mets. Versus the Mets on the road. That'll give me the numbers. Stat Moose, man. Supposed to be Stat Moose. All right. So on the road, basically in Citi Field, Juan Soto has a 333 batting average, 39 hits, 12 home runs, 26 RBIs, 29 runs scored in the 35 games he's played at Citi Field. I mean, that's promising. That's promising. Just last year. Oh, it's not giving me last year's numbers at Citi Field. I got to pay $20 a month for Stat Moose, which is so stupid. But, yeah, I mean, Juan Soto's numbers at Citi Field, they just speak for themselves. So I'm pretty excited to see Juan Soto make his Mets home debut this Friday. Should be fun. Should be fun. And I mean, Juan Soto's Juan Soto. You already know. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, like at the end of the year, we're going to look at Juan Soto's numbers, and he's going to be in the MVP conversation. Like, it's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. All right, we touched on Beatty. We touched on Acuna, touched on Vientos, Alonso, Lindor, Soto. I want to give Brandon Nimmo, and then I'm going to talk about Louis Torrens, his defense, and his surprising offense so far to start the year. Louis Torrens hitting 313 right now with a 353 on base percentage and a 625 slug percentage. And then his defense, I mean, has been phenomenal. He saved the Mets today. No doubt about it. Louis Torrens, if you want to say Pete Alonso isn't the player of the game, Louis Torrens is the runner-up player of the game today. I mean, throwing the runner out at second in the ninth inning, saving Brett Beatty's ass in the eighth inning. He played a fantastic game when he came in for Hayden Senger today. Like, he's doing exactly what you want and more while Francisco Alvarez is out. And if he's hitting like he's hitting right now, I'm not expecting him to hit above 300, but if he's hitting like 260 plus and he's playing elite defense, when Francisco Alvarez does come back, we're going to have a conversation to say, maybe we want to ride the hot hand for a little bit longer. And then once he slows down, maybe you give Francisco Alvarez definitely give Francisco Alvarez that shot because his upside is there. But if Louis Torrens is playing the defense he's playing, which I expect to do, he's a great defensive catcher, and he's hitting, why not just ride the hot hand? Why not ride the hot hand? Louis Torrens today comes in for Hayden Senger, pinch hits, 1 for 2 today. Now, like I said, on the year, hitting 313. Went 0 for 3 just yesterday against Miami, but in the series opener, went 2 for 4, an extra base hit, a home run. how many RBIs? 2 RBIs. And then against Houston in that series, I mean, he was hitting 375 on base percentage, 286 batting average in Houston. So he's doing his job. He's doing his job and more right now. You got to love what you're getting out of Louis Torrens. But I want to touch on Brandon Nimmo because Brandon Nimmo, he's the wild card in this lineup. Because if we get, the good version of Brandon Nimmo, and the good version of Brandon Nimmo is actually really good. Last year with runners on, he had 299, had a 900 plus OPS. So he does his job with runners on, which is why I love to have Brandon Nimmo in that cleanup spot for the Mets this year, because when you factor in Juan Soto's 407 on base percentage right now, the fact that he's never had a year with below a 400 on base percentage, Francisco Lindor, you hope he gets on base a little bit more than he has. Pete Alonso so far having a red hot start. So with those three guys in front of Brandon Nimmo, with the amount of times that they're going to be on base, and from Brandon Nimmo's career stats with runners on, like I said, even last year in a down year for Brandon Nimmo, he still hit 299 and had over a 900 OPS with runners on. He had a career high in RBIs. He drove in 90 runs last year. So I would love Brandon Nimmo to do what he's doing right now. So far this year, Brandon Nimmo is hitting 250, has a 500 slug percentage. The home runs are coming. I mean, he hit 2 home runs in this series. He had he had 4 hits this series in 13 at bats. 4 hits in 13 at bats. So Brandon Nimmo, outside of Pete Alonso, he was the second best player. He hit 307 this series. Great performance out of Brandon Nimmo to start the year. And the home run numbers have been increasing for him every single year now. He hit 16 in 2022, jumped up to 24 in 2023, and then 23 just last year with a career high 90 RBIs. And he's a guy who walks, he gets on base, so you got to love that. I mean, even last year he had a 327 on base percentage in a down year. But I think if we get the 2021 through 2023 Brandon Nimmo, we're going to be in good shape this year, because if we get the 2023 Brandon Nimmo, that's huge. He had an 829 OPS, a 363 on base percentage, a 274 batting average, 24 home runs, 68 RBIs. That would likely increase with the guys hitting in front of him. Like I said, in 2023, he was our leadoff hitter. And in 2022, he had 274 with 64 RBIs. 2021, he hit 292. So Brandon Nimmo has the ability to be a 270 plus hitter. He has the ability to drive in runs. His power has significantly increased over the past few years. So Brandon Nimmo could be a real wild card in this lineup, a legit wild card. Whereas if he hits, this lineup is going to be in good shape. It's going to be in great shape. Now, we need Vientos to hit. We need Lindor to hit. But so far, Soto, Alonso, and Nimmo, 3 out of the 5 of the guys that you need to hit, they're hitting. They're hitting. They're producing. So, yeah, I mean, you got to love it. And now I want to talk about the pitching, because the pitching has been great. The pitch going into today, the Mets were 4th in ERA, 4th in earned runs, so that makes sense. But, yeah, the pitching has been phenomenal. The starting pitching, in particular, like Clay Holmes, like Kodai Senga. I want to talk about Kodai Senga, because yesterday, he had a shaky start, but outside of Lindor's errors, I mean, Senga had a great performance yesterday. He had a so-and-so start that some people are calling it. But, I mean, he went 5 innings, only allowed 3 hits, 8 strikeouts. He did let up a home run, but really one bad pitch on that home run, and that's what happens. 3 hits allowed, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, only allowed 2 earned runs. I mean, Kodai Senga pitched his rear end off yesterday, and he only pitched 5 innings in the regular season last year. So for him to come out of the gates and have a great start in his first game back, that's a very promising sign. So good for Senga. We need him to be that ace, especially with Sean Manaea getting the news that his oblique, he had a little bit of a setback, probably not going to be back till late May or early June at the earliest. So we need Senga to really be that guy in this rotation this year. So as long as he stays healthy and he puts together starts like he did last night, we're going to be in good shape with Kodai Senga. Clay Holmes. I mean, I want to talk about Clay Holmes right now. He had a pretty good start too. I mean, outside of Mark Vientos' errors, like the defense hasn't been helping the pitching so far. But Holmes going 4.2 innings. The pitch count was up there because the innings got extended from some errors. But I mean, Clay Holmes today going 4.2 innings, 6 strikeouts, only 2 walks. I would still like to see those walks kind of take a shy shade down. I mean, he had 4 walks in his opening day start, but I mean, so far in the year, I mean, I know we're only 2 games in, but he's doing everything that we want him to do. I mean, I'm not expecting Clay Holmes to go 6, 7 innings in his first few starts, like as a starter for the first time since his rookie year, where he only started, I think, 7 games. Yeah, in 2018, he started 4 games actually. So in his 5th and 6th career start, he goes 4.2 innings, only lets up 2 earned runs in his first one earned run in his second one. Like Clay Holmes is actually pitching pretty well. Like right now he's at 2.89 ERA. That's huge. That's huge what we're getting out of Clay Holmes. And especially when we have multi-inning guys in this bullpen like Brazoban, who had his first career save today. You got guys like Jose Budo, who was able to go 2 innings. Max Kranick last night coming in relief, pitching 3 shutout innings. I mean, Max Kranick, by the way, has been lights out to start the year. Had a great working out of the jam with the bases loaded, coming in with the bases loaded, 1 out, gets 2 outs. One of those guys was Jordan Alvarez. One of those guys was Christian Rockler. Like huge performance from Max Kranick in Houston. Huge performance last night to kind of save the bullpen. Being able to just use 2 pitchers last night in a loss was huge, because then we go out there and we get Reed Garrett, AJ Minter, Ryan Stanek, Edwin Diaz, Jose Budo, Danny Young, and Huascar Brazoban. So Max Kranick kind of played a factor in today's game just from going 3 innings yesterday. So good for Max Kranick there. I mean, Griffin Cannon looked spectacular in his start. Tyler McGill looked lights out in his start against Houston, going 5 innings, 1 earned run allowed. Like these pitchers, these starters have been doing exactly what we wanted them to do, and that's keep the Mets in a position to win the ball game. Clay Holmes did that today. He only allowed, 2 runs, 1 of those earned. AJ Minter didn't look great today at all. One bit. He actually fell down during one of his pitches. But, I mean, this pitching rotation, bullpen included, has done what they needed to do, and that's keep the Mets in a position to win games. And if they score, I said this before the season even started, as long as this Mets pitching staff can just keep them in a position where the offense can score more runs, which they did today. They scored 6 runs. At some point, the Mets are going to score. They did that today. It took them till the 8th inning to score, but, well, actually really score in the 8th inning. They did put up 1 run in the first inning, but outside of that, they didn't score until the 8th inning. First game of this series, they scored 10 runs. So as long as this Mets pitching staff can just keep them in position to win games, we will win a lot more games than we lose, because we have this lineup. We have this lineup, a lineup without Francisco Lindor or Mark Vientos producing, and we're still able to put 6 runs on the board in the 3rd game of the series and 10 runs on the board in the 1st game of the series. Like, that was huge pitching performances. So home opener going to go to Tyler McGill, getting his 3rd home opener in his Mets career, which is insane to think about. But I mean, his first start going 5 innings, 6 Ks, 1 earned run, 1 walk. How many hits did he allow? Let's see. Only 3 hits allowed. So I'm pumped to see what McGill can do against the Toronto Blue Jays, a good Blue Jays team too. They are, I want to say, 5-2 this year. Tonight they beat the Washington Nationals 4-2, doing some work against the NL East for us, even though the Nationals probably aren't going to be in a tight race with us for the NL East, but still nice to see the NL East teams be losing. Marlins lost, Nationals lost, Braves, I think they're officially, did they lose? The Braves officially lose. Phillies won, but yes. Dodgers lost, Braves 0-7 start for the Braves. And if there's one team I really hate, 2 teams I really hate in MLB, the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. And I think I hate the Braves more than the Phillies, which is crazy to say because I hate Philadelphia. I hate the Eagles. I hate the 76ers, but I hate the Braves. I don't think there's any team that I hate more than the Braves. All right, so the NL East, baby. Only the Mets and Phillies, the only ones to come away with wins tonight. And Phillies look great. The Phillies look absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Zach Wheeler today went 7 innings, 3 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 10 strikeouts. Zach Wheeler, former New York Met. One guy, I think I'd rather have kept Zach Wheeler over Jacob deGrom. I really do. Like, crazy to say, but, since 2021, Wheeler has been undoubtedly the better pitcher. Undoubtedly the better pitcher. I mean, Jacob deGrom, I know he won back-to-back Cy Youngs for us. He had a great Met career, but I think I'd rather have kept Zach Wheeler over Jacob deGrom. But that's on the Wilpons, because if we had Steve Cohen, he just would have kept both. But yeah, the Mets overall 3-3 homestand, 3-3 road trip. Coming back home. Pete Alonso said it. He's pumped to go home, which was nice to see out of Pete Alonso. But yeah, I mean, we just need some more from Mark Vientos. We just need some more from Francisco Lindor. And I think this Mets team is going to be a 90-plus win ball club. All right, let's talk about the Yankees. They had a little bit of a struggling first 2 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks this series. Haven't gone well. 16 strikeouts today. They had 13 strikeouts last night. Faced 2 great pitchers. Corbin Burnes, Cy Young pitcher. Probably going to be a Cy Young candidate in the National League this year. Zach Gallen going 6.2 innings, only 3 hits allowed, 13 strikeouts. Yesterday's game, they were in a position to win. They had a little bit of a blunder. Arizona Diamondbacks put up a 5 spot in the 8th inning, which was not fun. But, I mean, the reason I wouldn't be too worried about last night's loss is you didn't have Devin Williams. Devin Williams, on paternity leave, so congratulations to him and his wife having a kid. But, I mean, Luke Weaver probably would have pitched the 8th inning, and I would assume that Luke Weaver would have had a clean 8th inning, which would have set Devin Williams up for a save. So I wouldn't overreact to the Yankees' loss last night. Definitely not the offensive performance that you want to see out of them, especially after the first few games of their season, where they absolutely scorched the Milwaukee Brewers. But you got to take into account, they put up 4 runs on Corbin Burnes, and Corbin Burnes still did pitch pretty well, struck out 8, but 3 walks killed him, let up 2 home runs. And then Zach Gallen today, Zach Gallen, I mean, he's going to be a Cy Young candidate too, as well this year in the National League. So 2 great pitchers they faced. And putting up 4 runs on Corbin Burnes, like I said, is huge. Zach Gallen was just dealing tonight. The one thing I would be worried about if I'm the Yankees is those strikeouts. It's those strikeouts, because they have a lot of high strikeout percentage guys. Like Cody Bellinger strikes out a lot. Goldschmidt, he struck out a ton last year, had over 170 Ks. Aaron Judge, as great as he is, he does strike out a lot. Jazz strikes out a lot. Volpe, we already know, he strikes out a ton. So that's the one thing I'd be worried about this offense is they're going to be relying heavily on home runs. They won their first 3 games. They started off 3-0 because of home runs. I mean, that's really what it was. And even tonight, I mean, they were in that game in the 9th inning from a 3-run home run from Anthony Volpe. And Anthony Volpe having a hell of a start to the year, hitting his, I believe that was his 4th home run, I want to say now. Yeah, his 4th home run of the year in his first 5 games. So good for Anthony Volpe having a hot start to the year. But yeah, I mean, Paul Goldschmidt, 2 strikeouts, 0 for 4. Cody Bellinger strikeout, going 1 for 4, 3 strikeouts out of Aaron Judge. Jazz Chisholm struck out. Volpe struck out. Austin Wells, he's the only guy in this lineup who didn't strike out. Dominguez struck out 3 times. Ben Rice struck out 3 times. Like, bad overall performance from the Yankees lineup tonight. 16 Ks. So that's the one area of this offense that I'd be worried about, is they just do have a lot of guys who strike out, but they also have a lot of guys who can hit home runs. And I'm not going to say that they're going to have multiple guys that hit 30, 35 plus home runs. Aaron Judge is probably going to be that only guy who hits 35 plus, 30 plus home runs. But Goldie's a guy who can hit 20 plus. Bellinger's a guy who can hit 20 plus. Jazz is a guy who can hit 20 plus. Volpe hit 20 plus his rookie year. Wells, I think he can hit 20 plus. Dominguez, I would say 15 to 20 in that range in his rookie year. Ben Rice, I think he can hit 15 to 20. So they have a lot of guys who can hit a good amount of home runs, not a great amount of home runs, but a bunch of guys hitting a good amount of home runs is a lot of home runs from the team overall, especially when you have Aaron Judge, who's probably going to hit 50 plus again. So you're going to be heavily reliant on that home run ball, but also you got to keep an eye out with runners in scoring position. Are the Yankees going to be able to get a base knock the other way? Are the Yankees going to be able to hit a sac fly? Sac fly is probably, yeah, but heavily reliant on that home run ball. So that's the only area of this offense that I would be worried about. Outside of that, if they're hitting home runs, they're going to win a lot of ball games. Pitching, I mean, Carlos Rodon did not have a great performance today. Gomez today, though, coming out of the bullpen, going 3 innings, no runs allowed. 3 walks, kind of scary, but at the end of the day, he had a pretty good performance out of the pen. They did not re-sign, but brought back Adam Ottavino on a contract. He'll probably be joining the bullpen, but it's going to be a tough game tomorrow, considering the Yankees have Carlos Carrasco making his first start against Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly in his first start against the Chicago Cubs this year went 5.1 innings, only allowed 3 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks. But I mean, they need to hit home runs against this guy. That's how they're going to win the game, especially considering you got Carlos Carrasco on the bump, and he came in relief against Milwaukee this past series. In the last series, went 2 innings, let up 5 hits, let up 3 earned runs, let up a home run. So, and Carrasco's not going to be. I'm not going to say Carrasco's going to have a lights out start. He's not going to. I think I would make a bet on Carlos Carrasco not having a good start because he went 3-10 last year with a 5.64 ERA. In 2023, with my beloved New York Mets, had a 6.8 ERA and went 3-8 in 20 starts. So Carrasco's not what he used to be. He's just not that pitcher anymore. He's at the tail end of his career. He's in his upper 30s. He's 38 years old. So the Yankees need an offensive explosion tomorrow. No doubt about it. If they lose, not a big deal. They're going to start the season off 3-3, 500. Not a big deal. The Diamondbacks had 3 dominant pitchers on the mound this series. And then they're going to have Max Fried, hopefully playing stopper if they lose against the Pittsburgh Pirates on the road, against Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller's a pretty good pitcher, though. Then they got Marcus Stroman on the bump, who didn't really pitch great in his first outing. And then Will Warren. I want to talk about Will Warren because Will Warren had a great start. Will Warren put together a great start. Went 5 innings, 2 earned runs allowed, let up a home run, so really 1 bad pitch, 4 walks. You'd like to see that number decrease a little bit. But, I mean, I said going into this year when they had those injuries to Louis Hill and Garrett Cole, Will Warren's your number 4, number 5 guy. You don't need him to go out there and pitch like an ace. You need him to do exactly what he did, and he did that. He kept the Yankees in a position to win the game, and they probably should have won that game, like I said, if they had Devin Williams. So good for Will Warren, man. He needed that because last year he had a rough short stint with the Yankees in 6 games last year in 22 innings. He let up 26 earned runs. 26 earned runs. 5 home runs in 22.2 innings. Not great. Not great from Will Warren last year. But, I mean, he's a guy the Yankees fans have a lot of hope in. He's a guy that the Yankees organization have put a lot of stock in. So, good for Will Warren to go out there and have a really good start in his first start to 2025. All right, but that's really it for me today. I mean, you got to love for Yankees, you got to love what you're getting out of Anthony Volpe to start the year. The power looks like it's back. He had a significant drop-off in home runs last year. I mean, compared to his rookie year where he hit 21 home runs, last year Volpe only hit 12 home runs, and he played 160 games. It's not like he didn't play every single game last year. So 21 to 12 home runs, not good, but 3 home runs in his first 4 home runs now in his first 5 games. That's appealing, and he came up big in the 9th inning trying to make it a game. Like, when Dominguez came up, if Dominguez got on base, it would have put the pressure on the Diamondbacks. It really would have. So, I mean, Volpe, kind of a clutch home run. I know it was late in the game, and it was kind of useless now, but clutch home run to put the pressure on him. You know, like I said, if Wells or Dominguez gets on, you get Ben Rice up at the plate who's got some pop in his bat. You never know what happens. But overall, both teams, I mean, 3-2 the Yankees right now. Mets 3-3 on the road. I mean, it looks like both these teams are going to be playoff teams. I know we're only 6 games in for the Mets, 5 games in for the Yankees, but so far, really good signs from both teams. And now what I do want to talk about before I do get off is Sandy Alcantara. The Mets kind of making their pitch. Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, and Starlin Marte all had very kind words to say about Sandy Alcantara. I mean, he went out there and he shoved against the Mets last night, 4.2 innings. They got him out pretty early, but his pitch count was kind of up. Marlins defense didn't really do him any favors, but they still got the win. They won 4-2, but he went 5 innings, only 3 hits, 2 earned runs allowed. So far, Alcantara is showing some good signs, after missing the entire 2024 season. But the Marlins are going to trade him. They're going to trade him. But Juan Soto, here's what he had to say about Sandy. He said it would be one of the best trades that we could have. I know we have great pitching here, but adding a Cy Young winner like that would be huge. It's going to take a lot to get him. And it would. It would take a lot for the Mets to get him, and it would take a lot for the Yankees to get him because he wouldn't be a free agent until 2027. And that's it. They have a team option. He has a team option in 2027. So if he stinks, you can always let him go after the 2026 year. But they have that team option in 2027, which would only pay him $21 million. He's only making $17 million this year, $17 million in 2026. So for a pitcher like that, making that kind of money, that's a steal. That is a value. That is a bargain. So if the Mets got him, think about this rotation. Alcantara, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, who has looked phenomenal last year, looked phenomenal in his first start of the year, going 9 strikeouts over 6 innings. Griffin Cannon, who's the project of the Mets this year. Last year was Manaea and Severino. This year it's Griffin Cannon. Tyler McGill. And then hopefully Sean Manaea comes back healthy and strong in late May, early June. So that would be their 6-man rotation. That would be a really good 6-man rotation. Now, what would it take to get him for the Mets? You're probably thinking either Brandon Sproat, Chet Williams, Drew Gilbert, Blake Tidwell, 1 or 2 of those 4 guys. And now I think the Marlins would probably want an MLB-ready young player. Could it be Brett Beatty? Could it be Luis Angel Acuna? Could it be Ronnie Mauricio? Could it be Francisco Alvarez? If it's one out of those 4 guys and 2 of the prospects I just mentioned, I think I'm striking. I think Alcantara is the guy the Mets need in this rotation. He would be undoubtedly their ace. And if Kodai Senga's pitching like an ace, that gives you 2 aces. That gives you Manaea when he's back. So that's 3 high-end front-end starters in your top 3. Then David Peterson, who might be a high-end starter now at this point in his career. I mean, he's looked great. And then Clay Holmes, who's the wild card. So far, he's looked great. Like I said, pitching to a 2.89 ERA. If the defense helps him out today, he probably would have went 5-6 innings. And then you flip to Griffin Cannon, who looked phenomenal against a loaded Houston Astros lineup and looked great in spring training. And we've seen the Mets so far in the past few years kind of resurrect pitchers' careers. They'd have a really good rotation with a really good bullpen and a really good lineup. So they'd be a complete team if they were able to get Alcantara. Yankees, they just need pitching. Same thing as the Mets. They need pitching. Going into this year, it's like Yankees don't need pitching. They have the best. I was saying they have the best pitching staff in the MLB, even over the Dodgers. But with the injury to Garrett Cole, with Louis Heel missing half the year, it sucks. It freaking sucks. But imagine Max Fried and Sandy Alcantara as your front 2. Clark Schmidt will be back soon. Clark Schmidt's still a pretty good pitcher. Probably keep Will Warren in there. And then you got Carlos Rodon as your number 5. Because I think Carlos Rodon at this point in his career, he's a back-end starter. Like, it sucks. $165 million contract to be a back end starter isn't something that's appealing, but you got to bite the bullet and realize that's what he is. That's what he is. I mean, Rodon, either he's not built for New York or he's just not a good pitcher, because outside of 2 years, one with the White Sox and one with the Giants, Rodon really hasn't been a $165 million pitcher. I mean, you look at his career numbers. Like I said, in 2022, he pitched phenomenal. 14-8 record, 2.88 ERA. 2021, 2.37 ERA in 24 starts. But in 2019, a 5.19 ERA. In 2018, 4.18. 2017, 4.15. 2016, 4.04. So Rodon really has never been an elite starter outside of really 1 year, because even in 2021, he only pitched 132 innings. He was a good starter in 2021, but he wasn't elite because he didn't pitch. To be elite to me as a starter, you can't just pitch less than 25 games and have good numbers. To be elite, you got to be like Max Fried, where you pitch 30 plus games and you have a low threes or high twos ERA. To be elite, you have to be like a Zach Wheeler, going 30 plus starts, 28 plus starts nowadays, I think could make you an elite starter. But Rodon, he gave you 32 starts last year, but only 14 in 2023. And even last year in 2024, he pitched to a 3.96 ERA. Yes, he won 16 games, but the main reason he won 16 games is because the Yankees led the league in home runs. They had one of the best offenses in MLB. Do they have, like I said, this year, they don't really have that guy that's going to, with runner on second, 2 outs, put a great 2-out at bat together to get that runner from second to score. They're going to be heavily reliant on that home run. So if they're not hitting home runs like they didn't do today, Anthony Volpe was the only guy to hit a home run, they're not going to win more games than they lose unless their starter goes out there and gives you a great performance. So I don't expect Rodon to win 16 games this year. I don't. And like I just said, I went over Rodon's career numbers. Not great. Not great. So the Yankees could really use an Alcantara, especially even when Garrett Cole does come back in 2026. He's going to be at the tail end of his career. He's going to be 36 years old next year. So if you have Alcantara and Max Fried and Garrett Cole, who would probably be your number 3 going into the year just because he's coming off the Tommy John surgery, that would be a dominant front 3. Hopefully Will Warren turns into something. Then you have Rodon as your 5. Or you say screw him and you get another pitcher and you make Rodon just a very pricey bullpen pitcher. Like maybe a lefty specialist or something. Who knows? But overall, one of these two teams could really use Alcantara. I'm hoping it's my Mets. But, I mean, the Yankees could also strike. They got some trade chips as well. I mean, Spencer Jones, it doesn't really look like he has a spot on the MLB club in a long time. So you could probably include a Spencer Jones. I feel like the Marlins would love to have a Spencer Jones because he's got pop in his bat. He has the potential to be a 5-tool player. But like I said, with Aaron Judge, with Jason Dominguez, I think they're going to probably re-sign Cody Bellinger or go after Kyle Tucker this offseason. So it seems like that outfield is kind of locked up to the point where Spencer Jones doesn't really have a pathway to the Yankees MLB roster. So he would probably definitely be included. But I mean, like both teams have the firepower to trade for this guy, and both teams have a clear need for this guy. So I think it would make all sense in the world for either the Yankees or the Mets to trade for Alcantara. All right, that's it for today. Mets, day off tomorrow. Yankees, rubber game against the Diamondbacks. Well, not rubber game, down 0-2 this series. But if they can walk out with a win, I mean, 4-2 to start the year, that's a good start. And like I said, at the beginning of the show, every single game counts. Just like the Mets, the Yankees are going to be in a tight race for the AL East. The Red Sox, they revamped their entire team this offseason. Garrett Crochet shoved today, going 8 innings, 8 strikeouts. They bring in Walker Buehler. Rafael Devers actually had a hit today. I don't think Rafael Devers is going to strike out every single at bat like he did in his first 5 games. Jarren Duran, he's a great piece. Yoshida's a great piece. So their bullpen, they have a really good bullpen that they revamped. The Blue Jays are off to a hot start this year. They're 5-2. I mean, they look phenomenal right now. Bo Bichette's having a bounce back year off the gates already. Even after going 0 for 5 tonight against Washington, he's still hitting .310 with a .375 on base percentage. He went 2 for 5 last night against Washington. I mean, Bo Bichette, how can you not? I love Bo Bichette. I love Bo Bichette. New York native, by the way, too. Vlad, and he's in a contract year. So contract year, for some reason, well, not for some reason, guys want to get paid. In contract years, guys go off. Vladdy also in a contract year. So he's probably going to go off this year. They added Anthony Santander. George Springer's still a reliable bat in that lineup. In fact, right now, George Springer's hitting .429, so he's having a red-hot start to the year. Adding Andres Jimenez to play second base with his defense, he's also having a pretty good start to the year. He's hitting .308 with a .400 on base percentage, and he already has a couple home runs on the year. 3 home runs actually already on the year. So the Blue Jays, in my opinion, I think they're really the team that's going to be battling with the Yankees for this AL East division over the Red Sox. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Blue Jays this year. They also have a pretty good rotation. Chris Bassett, he had a really good start in his first outing, going 6 innings, only allowing 1 earned run. Kevin Gausman, he had a pretty good outing in his first start this year. He went 6 innings, only 2 earned runs allowed, 1 home run allowed. So that's where those 2 earned runs came from. And then their bullpen, I mean, adding Jeff Hoffman, that was a huge pickup. Jeff Hoffman has been having a clean start to the year so far. So far throughout 4 appearances, Jeff Hoffman has only allowed 1 earned run. A little bit of a shaky night tonight against Washington. Max Scherzer went down with an injury, but I mean, Blue Jays have a pretty good rotation, a really good bullpen, and in my opinion, a sneaky good lineup. So, especially if Bo Bichette bounces back. All right, but that's it for me. Moral of the story, Mets, Pete Alonso, baby, saving the day. Saving the day for the New York Mets yet again. Yankees, got to get that win tomorrow. A 4-2 start. Like I said, every single game counts. Same for the Mets. We need Lindor to heat up badly. Need Vientos to get a hold of himself badly. Brett Beatty, it's now or never, kid. It's now or never, kid. All right, that's it for tonight. Probably going to be going live tomorrow to break down the Yankees Diamondback series. A little home opener preview for the Mets. But that's it for me. I'm out of here. Deuces.